This is on foreign capital firms in East Asia. There are really two types. One of them is the Japanese type, and the other one is the Chinese type. The Chinese type is really in China, as you would expect, but it's also in Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia because the elites, political and commercial, in those countries are all Chinese too. So the Chinese type is Southeast Asia plus China, and the Japanese type is Japan. They're quite different. In the Japanese type, a foreign cap firm in East Asia, the leadership tradition is that the middle makes the initiatives and the executives edit the initiatives from the middle. In the Chinese case, the middle making any suggestions of improvement to the top is considered an insult to the top and a threat to their continued leadership, and you get fired because the leader's leadership is based on him being smarter than everybody below him reporting to him. As a result, the middle is unable to give advice or messages to the top at all for 10, 20 years at a time until disaster happens and then you have the overthrow of the existing leaders and somebody replaces it. It's another reason why leaders in China are paranoid. It's a system, you see. You don't listen, you don't listen, you don't listen. You're not getting feedback, you're not getting feedback, you're not getting feedback. Disaster happens, you're out. And then the other guy watches that, the new leader watches that. He's terrified, so he's even more unwilling to listen, etc. You have those two regimes in Japan, in East Asia. The Japanese system has blown away the Chinese one up until now, absolutely blown it away. And the Chinese one has been successful only the last 15 years. And that's because of some government policies to mitigate the bad 2,000, 3,000-year-old traditions of fathering and micro leadership and bossing in China, which are this debilitating thing where the leader has to pretend that he's smarter than everyone he hires and doesn't listen to advice until a revolution overthrows him. So those are the two styles. Now, foreign cap firms lots of them are successful in Japan, and I'm going to talk about how to do that. And foreign cap firms in China, the only ones that are successful are chosen by the government there. One Japanese firm has been chosen to be successful in China. 6 American firms have been chosen, and 4 European firms have been chosen, at least in 2012. And then 10 times more than that, break even. And then 10 times more than that, lose money. And but the government has these 11 showcases, which they ballyhoo and put in the media all the time to attract the 10 times more who break even and the 10 times more than that who lose money. So I'm going to be talking about the successful ones. Now in China, most of the success is determined by whether the government chooses you to be one of those 11. But outside of China, in Southeast Asia and in Japan, there are some principles which make you successful or not successful. And it's really remarkable. Let me give you the whole image. It's so simple. If you treat the foreign cap firm as a separate business and let them compete with your headquarters business, you do very, very well. If you try to make them support your headquarters policies, it's a disaster. It's as simple as that. If you let them compete with you completely, they do extraordinarily well. If you make them a little part of your giant worldwide strategy, you get nothing or lose money. And it's even deeper than that, but I'll get into that later. It has to do with the fact that most foreign cap firms in Asia started as sales offices where you had minimal overhead, huge amounts of extra money by selling a product you'd already developed elsewhere. And it looked like a free ride. God, we just put in $1 million locally and we got $100 million of sales back. And now we're getting, we put in $200 million and we got $1 billion a year of sales back. And they want that free ride to continue. And then they don't realize that once you have 500 or 1,000 local salespeople doing all that, that you have to treat it like a company. You really have to have careers for these people. You really have to have performance indicators. You really have to have some kind of management as opposed to just visitors going in and out, don't know what the hell they're doing. And so I was in Japan 45 years ago, and I found that there was no directedness, no leadership at all in any foreign cap firm I visited. And here I am, 2012, 45 years later, just visited and did consults for a whole bunch of firms in Tokyo last year. Absolutely the same story. No leadership at all. Absolutely zero leadership going on. Just visitors, wives buying and husbands playing golf and enjoying the food. And some other things I can't talk about. So let's talk about the principles of the firms that win as foreign cap firms in East Asia, at least in the Japan and the Southeast Asia part, where your behavior actually influences your success, unlike China, where it doesn't. Number one, communicate using structure of ideas in your brain instead of grammar. Foolish executives take 2 years in the local language, say hello and a thank you and excuse me with it, make a couple of really boring, slow speeches read in it, and they sound like idiots and they sound weak. Smart executives don't bother doing that. They know 2 years isn't going to do anything for them, and they structure their ideas very, very carefully for international audiences. And the beauty and the succinctness of the flow of their thought takes the breath away of audiences, because nobody in the local culture thinks and communicates that clearly and has a brain that organized. That's what you do to get respect. That's how you get listened to. And everybody's got enough basic English to do that if your brain is saying stuff worth them listening to. Number 2, create an ambassador class of employees. The fact of the matter is that you need a class of employees who understand that the foreign executives are fundamentally deluded, arrogant, and just using this as a glorified sales office 45 years later. And they understand that you can't really trust those guys in foreign headquarters. They're never going to understand or say yes to initiatives from the local office. That they are not fair-minded, that they don't have a big brain, they're not global at all, even though they have these little Harvard buzzwords like transglobality that they bandy about in their speeches, and that's really a hopeless battle. It's never going to happen until somebody with a brain and a global background as a child can become CEO over there. So you got to have somebody in the local office who understands the severe limits of the executives that they report to and doesn't have false hopes about them. Number 2, those ambassadors talk to their local employees because they've had 20 years of making proposals which were really needed and would work, all of which were rejected by remote executives who have no idea what in the world Japan is or China is. And so, well, we'll think about it because we don't have any idea. And so, why make proposals? And so you have, employees, the best Japanese employees, the best Chinese employees, 20 years of experience having every good proposal they make rejected or not understood or delayed. And then on the other hand, you have executives in remote headquarters who just want a lot of money for no brains. I don't want to talk to people and have thoughts from the sales office. Just sell. That's your job. Make money for me and shut up. That's what they want. And so they're the bridge between these two, the evil over here and this disaster over here in terms of treating people. And if you have good ambassador employees, they manipulate the foreign headquarters very well. And it's manipulation in the purest, ugliest sense, and it's needed. Because the foreign headquarters is almost always deluded. And they manage to take care of local Japanese employees by responding to their ideas, disguising it in ways that the foreign headquarters doesn't block. And the cleverer that ambassador class is in manipulating both of these groups, the more successful your company is. And boy, that's good. Without them, nothing. There's no tactic that will work if you don't have ambassador class employees in the firm. Number 3, most foreign cap firms are suffering from both cultures equally. They get the worst possible executives rotating in from abroad. Wives want to shop for 2 years, husbands want to play golf for 2 years and play with the local females. And that's what they get, honestly. And, I could go into details, rigorous details, about why a certain global corporation in America had 4 times as many American managers for 20 years in Japan as they had in Brussels, even though the sales in Brussels were 4 times higher than they were in Japan. What was keeping them in Japan all those years? Why so many foreign executives had to be here to manage? What were they really doing? So I won't go into that. It's embarrassing, it's shameful, but it's male behavior all over the world. But that's the worst of the foreign executives, those kind of non-optimal people rotating in as foreign execs. They don't share any knowledge or information with local employees for 2 reasons. Number 1, most of them don't know, because they're underperformers abroad. And then number 2, Western tradition is the elites hoard information to manipulate the people below, the class system in the West, from France and Britain 200 years ago. They get the worst from the local population. I mean, smart Chinese and Japanese don't want to report to a Western ignorant, knowledge hoarding tyrant who's here to shop. And so you don't get the best employees from the local population, even though the careers in a Western firm, if you have ideas and initiative, you can rise to the top 80 times faster. I mean, the kind of responsibility a Western firm will give you within 5 years of hire, it takes you to age 55 to get in a Japanese or a Chinese firm. So the speed with which foreign firms can recognize local talent and use it is enormous and a wonderful opportunity if you have ideas. But most East Asians are not conceptual cultures. They're Buddhist cultures where concepts are evil and must step to hell, and they don't develop conceptual people, and so they don't find many employees like that in East Asia. So you usually get the worst of both worlds. You usually get aconceptual, non-initiating, wimpy, dependent Asian employees, and you usually get shopping Western executives rotating in and out. Very rare to get good quality local employees and good quality rotating execs. The next one is the basics of East Asian leadership. East Asian leadership is this middle that makes proposals that the top edits, whereas Western leadership is this elite guy who finds the one tipping point where slight inputs change the whole system. Now, you want to invest in both of those forms of causality. In the East, you have the 10,000 bee stings move the elephant causality. You change 125 things in the system to make one problem go away, Dr. Deming said, from Japanese quality. That's Eastern causality and style of management. In the West, you look for the one tipping point where the whole system changes state. You really want to invest in both, and you want to combine both of those. And then the ratio of investment in both will change from time to time in what market and situation you're in. The East Asian tradition has this tradition of using the whole workforce like a computer, where all the basic management information is given to 22, 23-year-olds. They know your final cost of production. They know which guy, vice president, is up for leadership, which one isn't. They know final promotion evaluation criteria of all the top managers in their own firm, HR. It's not secret. Westerners have no idea what they're competing with over here. That in Asia, in Japan in particular, and in Chinese management, basic information about the guts of the business is highly shared. And this Western thing of hoarding information and telling people to perform, but I'm not going to tell you any information about your job, but perform, but I'm not going to tell you any information because I need that to protect my career. This is really confusing to Japanese and Chinese employees. You want me to perform, but you won't tell me the basic information I need to even do my job? What's that? That's the Western deal. Now, it doesn't occur to them that the ignorant foreign manager is here to shop and is not a high performer in headquarters either and doesn't know a lot. Fake strategy and leaders who want fake strategy. I mean, there are fake strategies in Japan and China, and there are fake strategies in America and Europe. And you've got to empower people to spot fake leaders and fake strategies and to reject them. And you've got to stop this idea that every manager you send over is not fake and that every local manager who rises up is fake. You've got to stop that. You've got to really do the hard judgment evaluation work to find out that this guy's fake, this guy's not fake, and our guy's fake, and this other guy, one of our guys, is not fake. So you've got to do that. And if they can see you if you're able to distinguish quality people locally from non-quality people locally, quality of your own executives from non-quality of your own executives, you get trust and people are willing to work for you and put out for you. But if they see that you can't even distinguish which one of your rotated in shoppers is a good quality manager and which one's a jerk, and which one of our local Japanese or Chinese guys is a great manager and which one's a tyrant, if you can't make those human distinctions, then you are barbaric and a worthless piece of crap, no matter how much money and how famous your brand name is. Most foreign cap firms in East Asia have no directedness delivered at all. There's absolutely no leadership going on. And I don't care who the person is, how famous they are, GE and all that guy and all of his news conferences and stuff. But the local employee is getting no information and no directedness at his job at all. Zero. I measure it. Zero. And 45 years ago and now, zero. Zero directedness by whatever the leadership system is. These firms are completely unled. And then you go up to the direct report to vice president level, where you're about half foreigners, half local. And then the vice president level is almost all foreigners, maybe half local and half foreigners in some firms. And those guys, the direct reports to VP and VP, are doing zero leading. Zero. Absolutely nothing. They may talk and open their mouth and wiggle their arms, but it's not going anywhere. No one's listening. It's not turning into action at all. They can generate forms, all kinds of tatenai, it's called in Japan. The guy wants this crap, we'll give him this crap. So all kinds of fake behavior can go on that they can proudly show to the guy on top, but nothing's really changing in the guts of the business. These firms are unled. Not only that, they lack total basic management systems. Key KPIs, key performance indicators, missing. Career paths for employees, totally missing. It's just incredible. Why? Because for 40 years ago, the foreign cap firm, the foreign management had a sales office and they made a hell of a lot of sales with almost no investment, and they're unwilling to let go that that's going to be it forever. And they have 1,000, they have 2,000, they have 5,000 employees. They're still treating it like a remote, cheap sales office. And why, a sales office, why do you need all that complicated HR and career and stuff? Just sell. You want the best of Eastern and Western culture. That's going to take inventing a third culture that blends elements from both. And it has real strategy that delivers real directedness.